In fact, I would say that while the head looked okay when the character was running on the spot, the head now looks a bit too stable. And this is why you shouldn't really be spending too long on running on the spot, because you also have to check how does it look like when we see this animation from outside. Again, if this is a video game in which the camera is always attached to the character, then maybe you could have kept that version in which the character ran on the spot and it looked okay. But if your character needs to be seen from the distance, then this head looks a bit too stable if you think of it. Actually, quite a lot. So I think we want to go back and fix that. A cheap way to prevent the character from running forward is to go to frame 1, select the master, right click on any given channel of the master and go mute all. Now the control won't be playing the animation. There will still be animation, you're not deleting it, but it won't be played. And in here you can see that the head, now that we look at it again, when we are up close, it's quite okay. And in fact, if this was a close-up shot of the character running, I would kind of like to have the head stable, because this way I could read the expressions. But in practice, the further I go and the excessive the stabilization is. So you see, depending on the shot you're catering for, one animation may work or may work a little bit less effectively. So I will maybe reduce the counter animation on the translation of the head. So I'm going to go into the graph editor first of all and identify which axis is going to cause that. And that looks like the y-axis. If you want to quickly filter the graph editor to only show the curves you need to play with, you can go under channels and in there you will find sync graph editor display. There you go, this guy. And I will enable it. And the beauty of it is that now as I click on translate y, I will only see translate y in the graph editor. Be careful guys, because it may lead to some confusion sometimes, so you want to be careful with that. Similarly, with sync timeline display in the channel box, I can enable it, and now whenever I click on this box, I'm only seeing the key that is belonging to that channel in the timeline. Again, be careful, it's very easy to forget you have that on. So again, translate y is our curve. Let's see what's the effect of the curve. So as the body goes down, you see that the head goes up. And as the body goes up, you see that the head goes down. If I wanted to reduce this effect in a smart way, maybe I could find a middle pose where the neck looks more or less at the correct length, like this one. This value 0.104 seems to be an okay value. And then I can grab all the keys of the translate Y, and maybe I could scale them, right, around this value. If I hit R and I hold down Shift, the middle mouse button, there you go. You see I can scale them down. Again, though, it would be nice to have a preview, so maybe I can go to a place where I have a peak of the motion, and then in the graph editor I can go under Edit, Scale Options, and I want to scale proportionally. So the scaling works this way. Let me reset it. The value scale indicates how much you want to scale this value. So let's say we want to reduce the counter animation by, say, 20%. I'm going to input there 0.8, and Maya is going to scale the animation by 80%, thus taking away 20%. But from which pivot are we going to scale? Because the problem here is that I could scale it from this point, or I could scale it from the bottom, for instance. So where should I scale it from? I said I want to scale it from that value that I identified earlier on. So in the value pivot box, so the first one is the scale, the second is the pivot, I'm going to paste the value that I liked. I'm going to position my cursor on the peak of the translation there, and then I'm going to reduce by 20% by hitting apply. You see that now I can press play and see the result from the distance. That's better. And I can hit apply again. And the more I hit apply, and the more the head will go up and down. That's it. And this way you can tune the counter animation any way you like. It's quite cool. And in fact, very often in production, you will be told, hey, can you reduce that by 20%? And that's a good way to do it, in my opinion. So now I can look at the character again running through the screen and see if that's still too little in terms of up and down. And I think that now the head looks a lot more believable. It's still stable, you see, but it's a lot more believable. And I can go forever and ever, and just as I press play, maybe I can make the timeline a little bit longer to evaluate a bit better different distances. So now I would probably need another monitor in here to demonstrate that. But now I can grab these guys and maybe I can scale everything from nearly 0 there now. And if I grab all of these keys, as the character runs through screen, I can apply, and you say, oh, I'm picking the wrong channel. Now she's running and rotating the head over and over. Remember, I only need one channel there. There you go. So I can reduce that and introduce a bit more up and down. there may be something to say about the chest as well. So I can maybe grab, remember the chest was also counter animating quite a lot. So let's see which channel of the chest was causing the issue. That seems to be translate Y again. So maybe I can grab again the chest. This time around I will scale around at around the value of 0, I think, because 0 is the default pose that I don't need to change. I will reduce it by a bigger amount so that you can tell the difference. So if I reduce it by 80%, so I type in 0.2 in the scale, see how much it changes stuff. And now I trust the head will go up and down a little bit more. So these are ways you could do, and you see now you actually see the head going up and down. So these are ways in which you can control the animation by scaling numerically and progressively see the effect. It's quite useful in fact. Of course, it tends to work better if you devise your animation with a logic. So for instance, if you're counter animating the ups and downs in some fashion, then you should always use the same control and the same axis to do that, so that you only need to scale those controls and those axes. So that's our animation in there.